During the 90s, extreme sports was very popular, and that meant that there would be video games based on them as well. The most popular was the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series. This attracted the attention of both fans of the sport and new fans because of the quality gameplay, while the Tony Hawk series experienced a bit of a resurgence with the modern remasters. A series forgotten by Sony has sadly not been resurrected. Cool Borders was a snowboarding game that centered its gameplay around going fast and performing tricks. There were several entries made during the PS1 generation, with a few final releases on the PS2, and even a spin-off title made exclusively for the Dreamcast. This is a fondly remembered series, but sadly does not get brought up enough when discussing this era. With the success of the Tony Hawk remasters, I think Sony should consider bringing their Cool Borders series back. But let's first take a look back at the very first Cool Borders. Cool Borders 1 in some ways reminds me of an early access title released on Steam. It has some good ideas and can even be fun at times, but it is lacking in content and needs more refinement to the gameplay. The snowboarding is a combination of clunky and stiff movement, with some fun mixed in from the sense of speed and doing tricks. The content is very slim with only a few tracks, but the core loop of trying to go faster and successfully performing tricks and navigating the course can be very enjoyable, just not for a long time. You are kind of left scratching your head because of the absence of local co-op multiplayer, especially considering that this game would be built for something like that. Cool Borders 1 lays the groundwork for even better sequels to follow.
What? You can try the... All right! No! This is it. Now's your chance to prove that you can really carve.
Borders 1 throws the player right into the action. When it comes to the controls, you have a jump, one button to help you with tighter turns, along with grabs for performing tricks. You can also experience the game from a first-person perspective, which is a nice touch and you can switch it at any time. There is only one game mode. You start at the top of a course and try to reach the bottom as fast as possible, while also trying to perform as many tricks as you can. Successfully performing tricks nets you with points, and you are measured on both your time and your points. The mixture between these two systems is a good one that requires the player to not only figure out how to navigate the course quickly, but to also figure out the best times to conduct a trick. One thing to consider with the tricks is that if you fail to perform one correctly, then you will tumble and this will slow you down a lot. There is a satisfying balance between knowing when to focus on the course itself and when to pull off a trick. Essentially, the gameplay acts as a mixture of a time trial interwoven with a score attack. While I do wish that the general movement handled better, I did like the risk and reward nature of needing to consider both your speed and when to earn points on each of the courses. How the player is evaluated on each level invites replay as you try to do better with your time and score, while allowing the player to experiment with the level itself to figure out the best way to do just that. The core of Cool Borders works really well. It just needs some more refinement to improve the general feel of the snowboarding itself.
Man, I thought you were history. All right! Not bad, but you're gonna have to do a lot better than that. Weak. Checkpoint straight ahead. Hurry up. No!
One other thing to note is how your character will roll and tumble whenever you hit something. This can be annoying with how the movement works, where you feel like you are fighting the game at times, but it also is pretty entertaining in some of the more narrow tracks, as you can pinball your way through them, along with getting launched into the air when you're hit. Cool Borders offers a light amount of appreciated customization. Before you start a course, you can select which board you're going to use. Each one has different stats in response, speed, and stability. There's a handful to use along with a few to unlock. You can can choose between being a guy or a girl with a few options in how they look. My favorite of the personalization options comes from deciding which music track to play. The music is easily one of the best aspects of Cool Borders, and the tracks are fun to listen to outside of the game as well. The courses have some nice touches, like providing you with an instant replay of your race, along with saving a recent version of your time to try and beat it on your next go. When you race your old self for a better time, the game will show that avatar on the race that you were using before with the very same outfit at the time. It is a small but appreciated detail. While the amount of levels is rather small with only 5 courses, there is some decent variety from daytime to nighttime, along with some more narrow designed courses along with some caves to snowboard through. Cool Borders has a few unlocks as well from 2 more courses and boards, but my absolute favorite is the snowman that uses a shovel as a board. He pretty much acts the same as the other characters, but he will roll into a ball when he hits walls or objects. You can see the makings of something good with this game, sort of like the developers were trying to figure out the genre without nothing to really go off of, and for that I can respect their effort. Before we move to the flaws, I want to show some of the voice acting. It is over the top, hilarious, and only adds to the entertainment value.
All right, today we're gonna go to the extreme on some of the most insane courses. Blow this race and you'll be known as the course chump. So let's see some ice fly. No! Whoa, man, I thought you were history. No!
Cool Borders can be pretty fun, but it comes with a bunch of caveats. For one, the game just feels clunky to control. Most of this comes down to the movement. The game runs well, but it feels like I'm controlling a snowboard with cement attached to it. At the same time, I'm not that good at this game, and that could also factor into this as well. Cool Borders is also very, very slim when it comes to its content. For one, it only has 1 mode and 5 levels. In a perfect world, more modes and levels would substantially help the game, but either Cool Borders needed a few more modes or double the amount of levels. One thing that I found very odd was the absence of any local co-op. This would be perfect to play with a friend as you race against each other and try to outscore each other. Overall, Cool Borders is fun. I found the racing enjoyable along with trying to land some of the tricks. And even when I found myself fighting the game to move, I always found it enjoyable to watch as my character would bounce off of walls or randomly shoot into the air. While the later sequels would provide us with what we really wanted from these games, this first one is a bit of a mixed bag that needed more playtesting and refinement. Before we move to the conclusion, I want to again mention the soundtrack. This is one of the best areas of the game and greatly enhances the gameplay. Here are a few tracks from the game. Cool Borders 1 is a game that I'm a bit mixed on. I understand that it's the very first in the series, at a time where playing within the 3D space was very new for the industry. You can tell the developers were trying to make a snowboarding game that could appeal to anyone. The core loop of the gameplay is pretty solid. I think it was a smart move to focus on both trying to complete a stage as fast as you can, along with performing tricks. Essentially, the developers blended what could have been 2 modes, a time trial with a score attack to create something that is very addictive and invites replay. This core element to Cool Borders shows that the developers were thinking in the right direction for this young series, whereas other elements just needed more refinement to fully realize what this game was trying to achieve. There is a general lack of content in this game, from the small amount of levels and what seems like an auto mission of a co-op mode. As we know, future entries would quickly refine these areas to make for improved sequels, but I also think it's important to see how something has started, even if it was a bit rocky. While Cool Borders 1 is not an easy recommendation, because of its flaws, it is one that I would recommend only if you want to see how it all started. Shortly after the first game, the developers began work on the sequel. They addressed many of the criticisms by adding in more levels, options, and modes. Generally, the snowboarding itself feels better than in the first. Local co-op was added, making the sequel much better than the first game. But that's a discussion for another video. If you are interested in being notified of new videos, please hit the subscribe button and bell. And if you would like to support the channel and get early access to content, please check out my Patreon. All of these links will be at the end of this video and within the description. And thank you very much for watching.